Namaskar. Today I want to share with you a particular yoga known as Kuja Stambhana. Kuja Stambhana is formed when Mars and Rahu form a yoga with each other. It can also be when Rahu is aspecting Mars. What does this yoga mean? So Stambhana, Kuja means Mars. Kuja is another name for Mars, like Mangala. And Stambhana particularly means freezing something, like making it as a statue. So Mars is getting frozen, or Mars is, like you may say, stupefied by Rahu over here. Rahu has that effect on Mars. Okay, and this can be a very dangerous yoga. Why? Because Mars can cause accidents, sudden misfortunes, sudden events, okay, and even dangerous diseases. Why? Because Mars happens to be the natural ruler of the 8th house. See, the natural 8th house is Scorpio. That is what we call as the house of the Kala Purusha, the body of the Kala Purusha. So the 8th house is Scorpio, and Scorpio is ruled by Mars. So Mars is getting very agitated, very affected by this yoga. Okay. In fact, we say that Mars Rahu yoga is like the commander in chiefs of the divine army, Deva army, and the Asura army. They are fighting with each other. So it's a very, very terrible battle going on. Okay. Currently, in fact, interestingly, Mars and Rahu are together in the sign of Pisces in the skies. So it's a very interesting time when I'm sharing it, and I've happened to study this quite a lot in the last few days. So what Mars Rahu together does is it can affect your longevity in a big way. Okay, because as I said, Mars is the lord of the 8th house, and it can have that effect. Particularly what it does is it affects the Karaka of the 8th house, which is Saturn. Okay, so it's not like the 8th house in the chart is getting affected directly, but rather Saturn is getting affected, who is the Karaka. So what really matters in a chart then is, can Saturn have the strength to overcome this Mars Rahu yoga? Okay, if Saturn is strong, then a person can at least not face very dire situations. Okay, there may still be problems, but not as bad. They may not face sudden death situations and all that, like accidents, and that can, in most cases, it can be apamrityu, that is an untimely death, which is something we don't desire for. Whatever it is, we are come in this earth to live a certain period of time so as to finish our karmas, and it would be good if we are able to finish that time and not die before our time. Okay, and that is the danger with Mars and Rahu coming together. Okay, so I have one chart. I have a couple of charts over here. The first chart I want to show to you is of John Lennon. Let me actually put birth data over here. Oh, sorry, yeah, that option was there, birth data. Yeah. So this is a chart of John Lennon, very famous person. Those who know about the 60s and 70s, he was one of the critical people in the very famous band known as Beatles. Okay, and he was the prime lyricist also, apart from being, I think, the singer and one of the important components of that band. So a lot of the band's ideas and philosophies were through the lyrics, and they were the philosophies of John Lennon, we may say. Okay, he is in fact infamous for the comment that Beatles are more famous than Jesus or something like that, and that he had to apologize, and that had very, very tough repercussions for him, including on his life. Okay, we'll come to that. As you can see over here, Rahu and Mars are together. I've given all the three kinds of charts for your reference. Is Pisces or Meena Lagna, with Mars and Rahu together in the 7th house. Okay. Now, additionally, for this yoga to affect one's personal life, we want the Lagna Lord to be somehow involved in this yoga. Okay. Now, when we consider Pisces Lagna, there can be two Lagna Lords. There's Jupiter and there's Ketu. Okay. And one may always say that Rahu is opposite Ketu and so on and so forth. But specifically when they are in dual signs, Ketu can also aspect Rahu. Okay, so there is actually a kind of yoga being formed over here. But more closer by is Sun. Mars and Rahu are with Sun. So what is going to happen is it is going to affect Sun's houses. Sun is ruling the 6th house of enemies. So which means that he can incur or invite some really nasty enemies. Okay. This Sun, I think it is not mentioned here. Let me try to do that also. Charaka in chart. Okay, yeah, this is what I want. So it's displayed in this eastern chart over here. Sun is also the Atma Karaka. So it's a very soul level, very deep level karma which is going on over here. Now, is there any other issue with this Rahu Mars yoga? See, 6th Lord conjunction is itself not very good. Okay. But on top of that, Mars is in what is known as Marana Karakasthana over here. Okay. So Mars is already dying over here. And Rahu is very strong. This is the sign of Virgo. And in Virgo, Rahu, it's like the own sign of Rahu. Rahu is very strong. It dominates over this Mars, and Mars is anyway dying over here. So you may say it will definitely affect the 2nd and 9th house. Whatever, I will not get into that aspect today. 9th house can be concerned with elders and father and all that. I really don't know much about his background. But all this, one can say, can be managed if Saturn were strong. Is Saturn strong? No, not at all. Saturn is in debility in Mesha Rashi. Okay. But someone may argue, Kartik, Saturn is strong in the Navamsha. It is exalted in Libra sign. That is good, isn't it? Yeah, it is good. It would have been good if Saturn were not retrograde. See, when Saturn is retrograde, it is not really exalted over here then. Okay. It is debilitated here. While you may say it can give results of the exaltation, yes, that is fine. But primarily it is debilitated. And over here it is exalted, but because of debility, it is because of the retrogression, what you call Vakri, retrogression, that is not good. That is making it behave as if it's debilitated. And this debility in Navamsha is even more dire, I would say. Or debilitated effect from Navamsha is even more dire. I don't know how close really they are, because if they are together in Navamsha, hopefully it's not a Graha Yuddha. I have not noted that point. But anyhow, Saturn is not strong. In fact, in Navamsha, it is in the 8th house. It is the 12th Lord. 12th Lord in Navamsha has got to do with death. So Saturn is not carrying good energy over here at all for John Lennon. I would also want to see how's the 8th house, because that is also important for longevity. 8th house is Mercury, which is not bad. But remember, Mercury is the dispositor of this Mars Rahu Yoga in Virgo. So that is not good. And the Lord Venus is in Leo. That may not have been bad, but problem is, again, Venus is in Marana Karagasana. When Venus is in 6th house, it's Marana Karagasana. Please understand how dire Marana Karagasana situation is. Marana Karaka meaning death causing. Okay. So it's a death inflicting position. So we are really talking of actual death. Something is going to die. Okay, it can actually be the person himself dying. And on top of that, this Mars Rahu Yoga is in 2nd house from here. So we have some concept known as Argala. So this yoga is in a way affecting Venus also. Even otherwise, the dispositor of Venus is Sun, which is joined this sign. So there is really, it's looking pretty dire over here. And that's what happened. John Lennon was in his 41st year when he was out of the blue, all of a sudden he was shot to death by one of his own fans. Okay. Now, what was the reason why he was killed by this fan? See, this particular guy, maybe he was a bit deranged. He was a private security guard, but who was out of job. You may say security guard can be Mars. It can also be Ketu, by the way, but Mars is definitely possible. And this person didn't like some of the pronouncements that John Lennon had made, including the one I just quoted a while back, that the Beatles are more famous than Jesus. Although that comment was made by John Lennon almost 14 years before his death. But this guy was a new fan of his who had come to know about this comment of his. And apart from that, there were some other comments John Lennon had made which showed his religious views or his political outlook, you may say. Like maybe this guy felt that John Lennon was more leaning towards communism or whatnot. Altogether, it is because of, one may say, the religious beliefs and the political beliefs of the person, both of which one can say sun does represent. Sun also shows one's religion, sun can also show one's political beliefs, especially Sun Rahu. So that is what caused this enmity, sun being the sixth lord. Sixth lord is sixth house is concerned about enmities. So unfortunately, poor John Lennon was murdered to death. And in fact, sun also shows death by gunshot. Guns are ruled, guns or even anything which is a projectile kind of thing is ruled by sun. Okay. There was one other thing I just wanted to say over here. Yeah. So the other aspect one can see is we generally also see the death from the third house from Arudha Lagna. Arudha Lagna, there can be two, but due to Ketu, the Arudha Lagna will fall in the sign of Sagittarius or Dhanu. So the third house from there would be ruled by Aquarius, and Aquarius is also ruled by Rahu, which is involved in this dire combination. So that is about John Lennon. We can also see timing and all that, but that is a more complicated thing, which we'll leave for some other time. I have a couple of other cases, but I will take that in second part, which I'll cover shortly. Thank you very much. Hope this was a useful thing, and we will have a couple of more cases also in this segment. Thank you. Namaste.